into a crossover episode, Double Fries No Slaw, and a peek inside Gators football. Around the horn, we'll go real quick. TJ Pittenger, Allie Peak in the top right corner, Richie Barnes, bottom left, and Will Thomas, bottom right. Allie and Will have been doing previews for UF games all year, and then Richie and I obviously do them on our channel as well. And so, because it's the holiday, and mostly because it's a rivalry week and I don't want to do this twice. Here we all are all doing it at one time. So, all right, instead of like an intro, like how you guys doing or whatever, let's just do this because it's a little more fun based on the combined 8 wins that our team has so far this year. Allie, favorite moment from this rivalry?
Ooh, great question. It has got to be, there's a couple good ones because I feel like there's been some monumental wins for Florida that have had implications, one of them being the national championship in 96. But I would have to say 2004, Ron Zook had already been fired. Eric Wilbur, who is my husband, was my boyfriend at the time, was playing up in Tallahassee. It was the day that Bobby Bowden Field was dedicated, and Florida won, and a lame duck Ron Zook was carried off on his players' shoulders as everyone chanted Ron Zook Field, which I will refer to it as that till the day I die.
All right, let's skip down to the bottom left-hand corner. Richie, do you have a favorite moment? I'm assuming like whatever the favorite moment is that Allie and Will have, and then the inverse, right? Like whatever Richie and I say our favorite, like that's probably what we would just have as least favorite. So we won't even do that. But Richie, favorite on this? Is Richie frozen? We're off to a smashing start here.
It's when Florida State kicked the game-winning field goal in the first quarter against UF. When Dalvin Cook went off in the fourth quarter. Either that or, I was at both of these games. Kelvin Benjamin just running through Florida's defense on that pass from Jameis in the 2013 national title season. Those were the two that came to mind. Obviously, there's better ones from when I was younger, but I tried to pick something or at least two things that I was there to witness. But such a fun rivalry.
You cheated by picking 2. Although Allie mentioned the national championship too, so I guess you guys are all cheaters. Will.
Yeah, I've got a much smaller sample size, I guess, because I'm so much younger than all you guys.
Yo, relax a little bit.
Chill, bro. Your first time on the show here.
But I think for me, it was just a few years back when Chauncey Gardner-Johnson planted the flag at the logo in Tallahassee. We had the Gator head going around. That was kind of the most swagger I've seen in a Florida win in my experience with it. So that was really fun to watch.
So I'll go 2003. It's funny that Richie and I's and all of ours were away games, which maybe that's a good omen for Richie and I this weekend. But everybody picked an away game, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, mine was 2003. I mean, I love 13, like Richie mentioned. I was there in 15, which was a lot of fun too. And but that 2003, I was younger. I was obviously I was 13 when that happened. And we all care a lot now, but like football, I don't know, it just meant so much more when you were younger to me. Like you lived in, we still live and die, right? Like we're all doing shows about it weekly and we really care. But like, I remember when we used to lose games back then at like 13, like it would really ruin my week. And now so much, it's like, maybe losing so regular now that we don't even really care anymore. But 2003, just the drama of 4th and 14 to D-Rob and then the Hail Mary from Ricks to Sam. I mean, Richie and I talk about this every Thanksgiving, but maybe it was 3 or 4 years ago. We had PK Sam and Chris Ricks on the podcast the night before Thanksgiving. So these guys are well out of their playing days and talking with us about that moment. We showed the highlight and it's cool to look back at it now, but I remember being 13. My family was decorating the Christmas tree. And I remember like getting in trouble for yelling at my stepmom to get out of the way, like on that last drive. And I don't know. Again, the games when you were younger felt like they were so much bigger than they are now. I mean, not that you care less, but it's certainly had a bigger impact
for that game. I was a freshman in college. I remember where I was sitting. That's the only time Eric lost to Florida State. That was the swindle in the swamp.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what ended up well, if you can't.
I thought it was a lot of good official replay reviews.
Yeah,
They got every single one right.
I was going to say, man, like, imagine blaming the officials 22 years later. Like, it couldn't be me.
It has the name. I'm pretty sure I owned a shirt that said it on there.
One that I didn't see, like, if I would have been older, if I would have been, closer to Allie and Richie's age, I would have said choke it doke. Like, not even a win, but that would have been one that to come back from a 28-point deficit. But I wasn't nearly able to remember that.
So a lot of people may not know this, especially the younger ones. But I forget if it was a Democrat, might have been the Orlando Sentinel, someone. But the headline the next day on the newspaper was Florida State wins 31-31, and that's kind of how it felt.
The Smack Talk tees that used to come out, they had one that said we all got ties for Christmas, and that was like that shirt is somewhere upstairs in this house.
I've heard the Deckerhoff call of it a million times, and he at the very end of it he says it's not like kissing your sister when you come back from 31-3, obviously referencing that a tie is like kissing your sister. So anyway, all right, all that said, we will actually talk about this year's game, though maybe people don't want us to. Maybe it's better to just stay on the highlights. But let's start with Will. Will, the ups and downs for Florida, where they fire Napier and they come out and look really good against Georgia and for all intent purposes could have won that game. And then come and just get absolutely demolished by Kentucky, come back the next week, look really good against Ole Miss, and obviously all the drama that's surrounding Lane. But then Tennessee comes to town and they put up 11 points. So just the ups and downs there. And Florida State's done a similar thing the last 4 weeks, to be very fair. So we'll talk about the Noles here in a minute. But I don't know. Is it kind of like, well, we played bad last week, so maybe we'll play well this week? Or is there something like, what are your just overall thoughts there?
I'm telling myself it's an up and down where we're due for a pretty good game here, but I just think it's kind of reflective of where you're at as a team, right? Your head coach is gone. A lot of the pieces of the coaching staff still aren't what they need to be at a program like this. And, at a certain point, 3-8 is 3-8, and you kind of realize that you're not playing for anything, in the postseason, you're not even playing for a bowl at this point. So then the question becomes, how much is it worth to you to play for the logo on your helmet? How much is it worth it to you to play for the fans who are still selling out your stadium, even though you only have 3 wins? And that, I think, that can kind of go up and down, which I think is why you've seen such a wide variety of performances. But for your first question, I'm definitely currently telling myself, well, we were bad last week, so this week is going to be just a fantastic showing.
Florida State fans have to be thinking the same thing. I mean, we did, we played Wake Forest, won that decisively. Wake was like a 3-loss team at that point. I think they at one point were like 7-3. Not that I'm ever going to hype up a win against Wake Forest, but then kind of the same thing. They go and just aren't competitive against Clemson, come home and beat the heck out of Virginia Tech. And then the next week they're not competitive against NC State. So maybe both teams will play good games. I doubt it. Somebody will probably go out there and be absolutely awful. Allie, on that, we talked, I don't know if it was off air or if it was me listening to you or not, but we talked about Tennessee and just, I think I may have asked just like, what does the team have left for these last 2 weeks? And you had some confidence that because they were rivalry games, the team would get up. And I don't like him watching the game the other day against Tennessee. I didn't think Florida quit, but I also didn't think it was just like all out max effort. Like we're going to show them, right? Like we almost beat Ole Miss. Like let's upset Tennessee, who's a ranked team. Do you feel like that? Like that?
Yeah.
There's like let's just get this crap over with. Like, let's just because I really did expect them to play better in that Tennessee game. I had a hard time picking that game. I went with Tennessee by like a field goal, but I was surprised at the lack of, again, it wasn't effort. Like, I don't think they quit, but it was weird to me.
Yeah, the whole game was weird. And I actually went back and watched it because I was there in the stands. And I feel like it's sometimes hard to see what you're looking at body language wise, effort wise from being in the stadium. So I went back and watched it and I didn't get any of those like we quit vibes, like the low shoulders or I felt like I saw players playing with passion, but the performance didn't say that, and it is somewhat shocking to watch how this team performed against Georgia, get as close as they did to beating them, watch them absolutely sweep walk through Kentucky, then watch them almost beat Ole Miss. And I really did expect that they would come home, play well in front of the home crowd. Tennessee is a rivalry. I don't know. There's a ton of injuries. There was a lot of names who I didn't recognize on the field. I'm sure that was part of it. I thought it was just a head scratching game for me. There was nothing like, I don't want to sit here and say that they quit because I don't feel like their body language said that, but nothing that they were doing was working at all.
Richie, same kind of idea on FSU. Obviously, so much of the focus for both of these teams has been coaching and who would coach next year. Obviously, Florida is still not sure. Florida State is this year with them bringing Mike Norvell back. Do you feel like that could be again, I don't think Florida State's effort has been bad for all that we've whined about and moaned about and complained about with FSU this year. Like, I don't think they're not trying. I just don't think they're very good. And so, do you think that maybe putting the Norvell stuff behind them having to not go to the press conference every week and fight for their coach, like, do you think that has an impact? How do you just, if you had to grade like their effort level going into this game, I still think it's pretty high.
Yeah, I think the effort level has been fine. Honestly, if you watch the team, there's no plays where guys are just loafing. They're just not good at football. This is just not a good football team. And then you've had some unfortunate bounces. Literally, a ball bouncing off of one of your players' helmets straight back to the punter on a punt, and then your returner, who's been pretty solid in at least fielding the ball, muffs a punt and gives them a touchdown last week. I think, I don't think Mike is a great coach. I think he, caught lightning in a bottle in 2023. But I will say this, I think his players love him. They truly do. And I think the idea of getting bowl eligible might give them an extra oomph to try and go out there and get this win. Obviously, it's Florida State, throw the records out the door to throw all these cliche lines out there. But I think the team has been fighting. Last year, you could tell they quit. It was, I didn't expect them to win another game. But this year, if you look at the box scores, and if you looked at the box score of every Florida State game and did not see the final score, you would think this is like a 8-3 team right now. They just find ways to lose and not trying to pile on. It's this team, I'm sure they're great kids and they care and they do care. They're just losers. They find ways to lose games, and that's kind of what we're dealing with, which has me still on the fence. I still haven't decided what my prediction at the end of this show will be, but that's kind of their mentality, the makeup of this team. Jimbo used to say every year is a different team. This year's team, they're just losers.
I mean, okay, well, I mean, I don't even have to call your team losers because you're doing it. So that's perfect. But Richie, I want to talk a little bit about the special teams stuff that did happen last week. Special teams is my fave. Always got to talk about it. But I mean, it was like inexplicably bad. And I do think that we're kind of in this era of college football where maybe less emphasis is put on special teams at practice. We kind of see this a little bit across the board. But what have you noticed in what kind of emphasis does Florida State put on it? Like that was probably the worst special teams performance I have ever seen. And I say this as someone who has criticized special teams for the past 4 years of my own team. So like, I completely understand the misery, but that was like comically bad.
It was so bad, but I think partially because it was like back to back, because you had it was a 17-yard punt. And the poor guy had no idea the ball was going to hit him off the helmet and just bounce right back to the punter. Then you get a 3 and out, but on third down, you dropped a surefire interception, and then you muff the punt. You missed the field goal early in the game. That was one of the worst special teams performances I've seen. And I guess the frustrating part to me, and I don't know if you've seen this or not, Allie, but during Mike Norvell's introductory press conference, he said the makeup of a team can be seen by how their special teams play. And we will have the best special teams in the country. And someone sent me that clip again from 6 years ago at this point, and I was like, really? That's okay? Like, if that's how you really feel, we saw the makeup of this team last week, and I think they've been probably pretty average throughout the season and honestly through Mike's tenure, but it was just a comical chain of events that happened last week to where I literally wasn't mad. I'm just laughing when the Squirrel White goes to field that second punt, I'm like, he's going to muff this. And I said that halfway joking to my wife, and sure enough, he muffs it, and then they go in and score. So, yeah, I have no confidence in any of these three phases right now. I do think the defense is okay, but the offense and special teams, I mean, they got a lot to prove this week against, a not great UF team.
We're going to have a support group for fans that were gaslit by their coaches about special teams. 4 founding members here.
We should. But TJ, looking through like FSU schedule, right? So they're 5-2 at home and 0-4 on the road. And you go through those road games. It was the loss at Virginia where they scored 38. But then their next 3 road games, they scored 13 at Stanford, 10 at Clemson, and 11 at NC State. So the offense really has not been traveling at all. As you've been watching that, like, have you noticed? Is there really a stark difference on the road, whether it be like play calling being tight, execution being off, or is it just a matter of fact of being at home versus being on the road being such a big deal in college sports?
Yeah, I mean, they haven't won a road game in 750 days, so it's been 2 full years since they've won a road game, which is crazy. Yeah, so like, I don't know. And Mike Norvell has said this too. He's been asked about it in press conferences. Been like, dude, if I knew what the answer was to why, like, we've tried new things. We've tried to leave at different times. We've tried to, change up our bus route, like anything we can, and we can't figure it out. And so I don't know, maybe not having to fly this week will be a good thing. I don't have a great answer for why they're so bad on the road. Again, maybe not having to get on a plane this week is a good thing, but who knows, man? Like, it's also a weird week with Thanksgiving, and it's a weird week with how much do the players truly care about this. So,
Let's
I
hope
think
the
a lot
bus
of
doesn't
times,
break down again.
yeah, they had a bus breakdown last week, on the way back. So who even knows? I do think on the road, like, if I had to give my best guess, on the road, I mean, they just start slow. Like, that's just been a symptom of this team. And I've been talking about it every week, and people get tired of me talking about it, but they start incredibly slow. And I think that just comes back to bite you more on the road. I think the home team can pick up a little bit from the crowd, and their offense can also get going a little faster because they're not in a road environment. Like, as bad as Florida State's been, they haven't sold out. They didn't sell out the Wake Forest and the Virginia Tech games, but they were both at like 85 to 90% capacity. So the crowds were still pretty good, and there were a lot of people there. And Florida State's offense started slow, but their defense kind of kept them in it, and they were able to kind of like pile on points at the end. Against NC State, against Clemson, against Stanford, they started slow and they just dug themselves a hole. And once this team gets down by about 10 or 14, I mean, Tommy is not a good enough passer to, come out and win you a game throwing the ball. So I think that's a lot of what it is. Like, you can get away with starting slow at home. You can't get away with it as much on the road because then you have to rely on Tommy to be a passer, and he's just not that. Like, he's a really good athlete who runs the ball effectively, and passing is very hit and miss. When he has hit guys, like, they've dropped balls, like, it's just, it was special. I know this is a bigger answer than what you're asking for, but like, it's just, if it's not one thing, it's another, right? Mm-hmm. Like, the week against Stanford, they couldn't catch the ball and they were overthrowing guys. And then the next game they lose, they have awful penalties and turnovers. And then the next week they lose. It's the worst special teams performance you've ever seen. So, like, they just find new ways to lose every week. It's nothing. It's like Georgia last year. I mean, they were winning games. Every single game, Georgia struggled with drops. Not at FSU, man. Like, it's something new every week. And so, but on home and away, I mean, they start slow. It won't surprise me at all if they have 3 points going into halftime in this game. And if Florida can get 2 touchdowns and get up 14-3, they're going to win. If it's 7-3 or 6-3 or something at the end of the first quarter or half or whatever, they'll be right in it, right? Because they can still run the ball and try and do what they want to do. But man, yeah, again, that's my best guess. I mean, Norvell can't figure out why they're bad on the road. Nobody can figure it out. But it's been 2 calendar years and they haven't found a way to win one there.
Mm-hmm.
On this, I'll throw it back to Will because I know he kind of studies it some. I don't know how much you've looked at Florida State this year. I mean, I know that you may have seen some of their big games, but they do run the ball. They want to run the ball. Like, I know that Florida fans were complaining about that early in the year, that their own team not running it enough with maybe the best back in the SEC, if not top 3. Florida State does want to run the ball, and I know that Florida's been banged up on that defensive line, and I thought their strategy last week against Tennessee was interesting. Obviously, that Kirk and those guys kept talking about it, how they played 2 high safety. I had somebody ask me about 2 high safety this week. I don't think they'll have to do that against Florida State. I think they'll be able to load the box a little bit more and try and shut down that run. but they are kind of a depleted defensive line from where they started the season, and then a depleted secondary too. I don't know if you have any updates on the safeties that will play in this game or not, but just thoughts on Florida defensively in this.
Yeah, so I mean, I think like what you said was perfect. Like with Tennessee game, you had to be so conscious of the downfield passing game with Aguilar and those guys, where you couldn't really crowd the box, and that is probably not going to be the case this week because, like what you said, with Castellanos not being an awesome threat with his arm, he can still get it done. But I mean, Florida's rush defense is 14th in the SEC, and a lot of that is because of what you said with the injuries. But it hasn't really been there. It really only at defensive front because of all the injuries. Now George Gums is out. You do have Caleb Banks back, which is big, but he's he has to get back into the flow of playing a game. My most important Gator, maybe bottom line here, is Miles Graham for a lot of reasons. And one of those is stopping the run, whether that is, running backs going out, or we saw him against Texas when they were in the swamp. He was an absolute homing missile on Arch Manning when he was trying to use his legs. So he needs to be able to do that to Castellanos also, because if Florida's in man and Castellanos gets one seam, that's 50, 60 yards maybe and a touchdown. So for me, Miles Graham is the most important Gator in this game, to stopping both the running backs, but also Castellanos when he wants to get loose with his feet.
Richie, you have something here? I don't know if you saw my text or not.
He's like, no, my phone was by my pocket because I'm paying attention to the show.
I'm a professional, TJ. I do not read my phone during it.
I'll follow up and then I'll let Richie come in just a second.
Okay.
What about stopping how many quarterbacks have you guys played, Allie, that are, well, I don't think any off the top of my head that I can think of are quite as maybe fast as Castellanos? I don't know. Thoughts on just say what?
Marcel Reed.
I don't know. I think Tommy's a little faster. Marcel's probably a better passer.
You can honestly argue Byron Brown. He's a big guy, but I mean, he's pretty quick though.
He's quick. Yeah. Thoughts on the mobility of the quarterback? I know that Will just mentioned Graham, but when Florida State, the only reason they were in that game against NC State at all was because Tommy kept making plays on third down and scrambling for first downs. Just thoughts on that and Florida being able to defend it.
I mean, so much of this depends on which Florida team shows up, right? I mean, if the Florida team that played Texas A&M shows up, it will not go, particularly well for Florida. But if, the Florida that shows up that played Georgia, that played Ole Miss, I think they can contain him. I don't think that I do think that Reed is a better quarterback. I think he is just as fast, if not faster. So I don't think that Castellanos is showing us something that Florida hasn't seen from other quarterbacks this season. I just don't think Florida does well against a dual threat quarterback. So that's just because it's nothing new doesn't mean it's not going to be damaging to UF. And I'll be interested to see, we have had so many injuries along the defensive line. What can they stop up front? To kind of prevent any bleeding there. But I thought it was interesting. You talked about Florida State really wanting to run the ball. Is that what you would say their offensive identity is?
Well, Tommy's just not a very good passer, right? And kind of by default. I mean, Gus wants to run the ball. Like that's always been his mantra. And I do like our running backs. Listen, for as bad as the team has been, I think the offensive line has performed a lot better this year than I expected. I mean, they graded out in like the 110s last year. And so, yeah, I mean, running, and they're better run blockers than they are pass blockers. So, yeah, I mean, I think they want to establish the run. And some of that is the quarterback run. And some of that is getting creative with jet sweeps and different things that they pull out at times that they've had some success with. Obviously, the worse the defense is or the slower the defense is, there was more success with it against Virginia Tech than there was against Clemson. And there was more success with it against Alabama because it was the first time they'd seen it than there was against Miami, right? So, yeah, I mean, there's some of that you're going to have to kind of pick and choose your spots. But, yeah, they definitely want to run the ball more than pass it.
We mentioned Marcel Reed, but do you believe that Castellanos is faster than Dart, faster than Gunnar Stockton, faster than Marcel Reed? Like, is that do you guys believe that?
I think in a straight 40 time, he would beat all of those guys. Maybe not Reed. But yeah, I think just straight 40s, like, yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, even Nussmeier can run the ball a little bit.
He's definitely, I think he's faster than Nussmeier or Gunner for sure.
Yeah.
He's incredibly, I mean, I'm trying to dog my own guy, but yeah, I mean, he's a running back. Like, that's just what he is. Like, he's just a really good runner and not a very good passer. Like, so yeah, I mean, I don't think he's a great quarterback by any means, but I do think he's a pretty solid runner there.
Mm.
Yeah, so while we're on the topic of Florida State's offense versus Florida's defense, just want to get your all thoughts on the secondary, Allie and Will. One thing Florida State does have is speed. Makai Danzy is a a super fast guy. Jalen Lucas, same thing. But then you have Deuce Robinson, who is a 6'7" machine who has made crazy catches all year. And really, the only reason we were in the game last week is because of Deuce Robinson. It wasn't because of anybody else and what they were doing. So how do you feel about your secondary in the matchups with speed, but then also with 6'7" monster? He's not a burner by any means, but he goes up, he high points the ball, he catches everything that goes his way for the most part. So just your thoughts on your secondary versus Florida State's receivers.
I think speed-wise, I'd be a little concerned, right? Because I think the fastest receiving core that Florida's gone against really was A&M's with Craver and Concepcion, and they broke a few deep passes, right? So you've seen Florida's secondary, especially those safeties, like you can get behind them pretty easily, right? If the offensive line holds up. So I do like the personnel. I mean, Devin Moore is a great player. I don't know if Cormani McLean's playing. I doubt that he is. I haven't seen the report though. But the talent for the secondary is there. I'm a little worried about our safeties when vertical routes are able to develop and the quarterback has time to throw.
Harlan, we have a super chat here, and I think it's for Allie's channel. Harlan, Allie, before we play the noise, this is what we do on our channel whenever we get a super chat. We usually play like a fun sound, but because of this season, we've just been playing we played the Trump, you're fired for a long time because we thought our dreams would come true. But this is what we've been playing on those super chats here recently. It just feels a little more fitting. Gator and Jeremy MD, both schools deserve better. Hope we can both get good enough to hate each other again. Go Gators. Appreciate you, Jeremy. That goes to Allie's channel. So if anybody on the FSU side wants to, we should make this a competition. See who can end with more by the end of the night.
That's a good point because this has been way too friendly.
Okay, yeah.
For rivalry week.
So like, which team is going to suck slightly less enough to win this game?
Let's go off the field for a minute. I think fans do care. Like both fan bases would like to win this game to finish the season.
I care more than the players.
But at the same time, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think most FSU fans, and I'll let you guys answer for the UF side, I think most FSU fans want to win this game. They would like to make a bowl. Now that they know they can't get rid of Norvell this season, like it's all right, well, at least beat UF. At least make them finish with 3-9. But I also think that if Florida State's to lose this game, most of them will go, all right, don't care, and move on. And I think apathy almost gets more dangerous. Now, Florida's going to have some excitement from coaching stuff, whether it's lane or not. Mm-hmm. They're going to have excitement from coaching. But I do think it's kind of a crappy spot that we're in where if you lose this, you're kind of like, all right, on to Christmas, like whatever. And that's not how it's been in this rivalry for a long time.
I mean, the national championship has run through this rivalry. Major back, before the playoffs and even before the BCS, the bowl seedings ran through this rivalry. I mean, it stinks to be at the place that we're at right now where apathy kind of rules. But I do think in some weird way, both of these teams do actually have something to play for. I do think that they are somewhat similarly matched. I got to be honest. I think Florida's the far superior talented team, but I think in terms of performance, they're pretty similar. And obviously FSU with a slightly better record, I think that probably comes from a slightly easier conference. But, for Florida, I think there's possibility of coaching news coming out on Saturday prior to this game or while this game is going on. And so I think that could either hype up or really depress fans depending on the outcome of it. But I think these players are auditioning for their next coach, so to speak. And so that there should be some passion behind your playing for that aspect. And I do think for Florida State, the idea to get bowl eligible over your rival should juice the team up a little bit. I think fans themselves may be apathetic about the outcome either way, but I hope that the people playing on the field do actually feel like they have a little bit to play for, because I think both sides do. Florida State could absolutely benefit from those 15 extra bowl practices. Hopefully we have news that's a shot in the arm for us on Saturday. just because it's not a national story this time around doesn't mean it's not going to be interesting for those involved.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely some apathy among Florida fans, but like I can tell, like first off, I mean the Swamp's being sold out, right? Like there is still that level of care and interest among Florida fans to get there for this game and be there for this team. And I promise you, I'm not being apathetic about this. Like I'm a Braves fan when I watch baseball. Every time they do the tomahawk chop, a part of me gets angry. Like this game means a lot to me, and I know that it means a lot to a bunch of other Florida fans. So there is a good bit of apathy, obviously because we're 3-8. But I do think that when you're in the stadium, like there's a different thing because you walk out of those gates, you're like, I don't even know why I came here. And at least for me, like you look to the sideline and you see an FSU helmet, and then kind of something clicks. And I hope that that's the same way it is for the players, really on both teams, so we get a good game. But like there has to be that sense of the team that you are supposed to hate more than anybody else is on the field with you, and that alone should be disrespectful to you. So go out there and play a good game, and like even though both teams are bad, let's have a good last 60 minutes.
And TJ, I know this is anecdotal, but I can tell you at least the following I have on the X right now, Twitter formerly, they want to win this game because after the news came out that Norvell was going to be retained, and we had a statement with comments from 3 different people, complete nonsense. I tweeted out, I hope UF wins by 50. And my mentions were flooded by Florida State fans calling me a fake fan, saying like, "Well, are you going to quit the podcast?" Like all this stuff. Yeah, I do think, and I do want Florida State to win this game. Like that was a rage tweet after probably a few glasses of wine, but whatever. But yeah, I do think overall both fan bases want to win this game. A lot of my really, really good friends, being from Central Florida, all went to UF, and they want to win this game. Why would you not want to win the game and stop one of your biggest rivals, if not your biggest rival, depending on how old you are and where you grew up, from getting bowl eligibility for another year? After my first 34 years alive, we never missed a bowl game. Now it's a regular happening. But I do think both fan bases want to win this game, and they'll feel good if they do, because a lot of us, not me right now, but a lot of us go into work on Monday with fans or alum of the opposite school, and you get the chance to say, yeah, well, we both sucked, but you sucked worse. And I think that's kind of what we're trying to take from this right now.
Yeah, I see the other super chat here by Jeremy. Thought he was going to get the prices right. Womp womp wah wah. We should add that, Harlan, just to let you know. That'd be a good one to add. Jeremy's beating all y'all FSU fans 10-0. So by himself, putting the team on his back. Yeah, no, I agree. I think Allie's right. Like, Florida. I mean, there's a reason that Florida's favored in this game. I mean, half of it is because Florida State hasn't won a road game in 2 years, and they also are the more talented team. I'll tell you this. I mean, I was in Carter Finley on Friday night, and when we scored 11 points, some of that, 8 of that coming 52 minutes in, I thought, man, there is no way that we're going to the Swamp and winning next week after watching Florida play Ole Miss and play Georgia. And I kind of looked at the Kentucky game as a blip. And then I was watching that Florida Tennessee game the next night, and I was like, I'm not so sure, man. I'm not so sure that I feel real confident about either one of these teams. Kind of feels like one of those whoever has the ball last will probably screw it up situation. So maybe defer in the first half so that you don't have the ball very last overall in the game. Will, what worries you? Not like a super deep breakdown, but just what worries you the most about FSU? Where do you think they can take the biggest advantage of UF?
I do think it's what we talked about earlier with their speed at receiver, because their safeties aren't that great. So I do think even though Castellanos isn't, an awesome deep ball guy, it only takes 1 or 2, in a game like this to really turn the tide, especially if it is a slow start. Like let's say it's, 14-3 with 2 minutes up in the first half, but then all of a sudden someone gets by Jordan Castell and it's 14-10. Like he's something like that. So I do think my biggest worry would be, does Florida's secondary get beat just 2 or 3 times? But that could be enough to really shift the game.
Allie, what's your confidence level right now in Florida's offense and DJ Lagway? And I think maybe, Richie, I'm going to tee you up for the same question, because we saw Florida State put a ton of points against Virginia Tech and Wake Forest, and then against one of the worst defenses in the ACC, NC State. They were absolutely pathetic. And then, same thing for UF. They scored relatively well against Ole Miss in Georgia, and then against a really bad Tennessee secondary and defense, like both teams scored 11 points. So I'll start with Allie, then go to Richie.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I have no idea. I expected Florida to get kind of a shootout with Tennessee that did not go at all the way that I expected. Interested to see, who we had VB3 back last week. Will he continue? Is he healthy? We have less weapons than we had to start the season. Obviously, Trey Wilson, Dallas Wilson are both out. But the talent is there. And so I think that makes this offense somewhat dangerous because you don't know what is going to show up. If the same offense that showed up against Ole Miss or Georgia shows up, Florida should win handily. But I don't know how to even make sense of the Jekyll and Hyde that we have seen the last 4 weeks. I cannot put my finger on what's causing that. So I can't give a great answer because I have no idea what we're going to see on Saturday.
Richie, same idea to you. Florida State's offense, like you said, if you check the box score, I think on an EPA basis, they would actually be 9-2. If you just like they're the box score champions, but they just can't find a way to win games. Thoughts on what they'll look like against the Florida defense this week?
I have no idea. I really don't. It's impossible to guess because, like you said, they have big numbers one week and then 11 points against NC State, who is arguably or definitely one of the worst 3 defenses in the entire ACC. They have the worst passing defense in the ACC, and you could do nothing against them. It's just so frustrating. Tommy, I will always thank him for that Alabama game, being married to a Bama fan, and I will always have that over her. I will say 2025 Florida State just physically dominated your team. And I don't know. Like, I don't think Tommy's a very good quarterback. I think he's a solid college quarterback. He has no pro future. Let's be honest. And if Deuce Robinson was not on this team, you might have fewer wins than you have now because he's been the lone bright spot on a consistent basis. I just don't know what to expect from this offense. I think the defense has been fairly consistent, honestly. The Virginia game, obviously, that was embarrassing, giving up all those points you did. But at the same time, I think for the most part, from a week-to-week basis, I don't think Tony White's been that bad. Gus Malzahn is getting way overpaid for what he's provided in terms of production. It's a result-oriented business, and it's just not been there. And I have no confidence in this offense at all. So Florida, if Lagway comes out and plays, he's such an interesting prospect. He has all the talent in the world, super high ceiling, pretty low floor. We saw it in the 4 interception game. Yeah. But if he comes out and he starts slinging it, this could get really ugly for Florida State.
Go
ahead. Go ahead, TJ.
No, go ahead. I was going to go to sleeper in a minute, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just going to ask you, there is so many unknowns in this game. Both somebody put it in the comments, and it's exactly true, is that the only constant is the inconsistencies that both teams have, and we have no idea who's going to show up. We've talked about the fact that, Florida can't be bowl eligible no matter what. Florida's getting a new coach no matter what. And so I would think that the pressure is somewhat removed from them. Do you think that Norvell feels pressure for this game, or do you think it doesn't matter either because they've already told him he gets to come back for another season, so it doesn't matter? Or do you think the onus kind of is on him? We're one away from being bowl eligible. This is our rival. We have had, by very lowest of standards, but a better season on paper than Florida has. Do you think that the pressure is completely on him in this?
Absolutely. I think it is entirely on him because the reaction this fan base had when they announced that he was coming back was not good. I'll give you an example. And TJ, you probably saw this. Our president, Richard McCollum, really nice guy. He tweeted out a video with his wife wishing all of his Florida State family a happy Thanksgiving. Okay. Go read the comments to that tweet. It is ugly. Like it went from bad to worse to, oh my goodness, people are insane. And I think Norvell is feeling that pressure. And even with that announcement, I think there's a chance he still may not be the coach in 2026. And I could be wrong there. I've not heard that from any inside information. But I do think if you lose an ugly game here and half your roster ends up in the portal, and I think probably at least 15 plus players are already mentally in the portal right now, you at some point you pull the plug. Like our schedule next year is ridiculous. You have one guaranteed win. Um, and then you go to Alabama, you play Florida, you play Clemson, you play NC State, at Louisville, at Pitt. Like next year's not going to be any better. So I think there's a ton of pressure on Norvell. If you look at him, he looks like, those memes where they show a president from their inauguration day to when they leave the White House and they look like they've aged 20 years and not 4 or 8 years.
Right.
That's Norvell right now. He's feeling the pressure. And don't go and lose this game, because we talk about apathy. Apathy means less booster funds. It means less NIL money. It means not quite a half full stadium, but maybe 3/4 full for a good game. Yeah, Norvell, he should be feeling the pressure, and if he's not, that's a huge problem. TJ, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I actually think the opposite. Like, I think the opposite of everything you just said. No offense. I mean, we don't disagree much. We haven't this year. But, I don't think the results of these games matter. I mean, if they mattered, he wouldn't be the coach anymore. Like, I certainly, like, the games before they announced he was coming back, like, didn't end up mattering. So, I mean, yeah, like, if he lost by 30, I mean, yeah, people would be pissed off. But, I don't think they'll bring him back, even if Florida won this game by 30. I mean, at the same time, I can have Will chime in on this if he has a different opinion. I don't know that Florida could score 30 on air. So, it doesn't even matter, like maybe they won't lose by 30 because of that. But yeah, I don't think if you're Florida State, like Richie said, like guys are probably going to the portal. They're going to, a bunch of guys are out of eligibility anyway. How many of these guys are even going to play in some no-name bowl game in the middle of Birmingham or something? Like, I don't think they care about making a bowl. It's a team full of mercenaries and, not a bunch of like guys that grew up diehard Seminoles that want to beat the Gators because of the rivalry that we all care about. So I think there's some pressure on Norvell to like try and leave a good taste in everybody's mouth to finish the year. But I think knows he's untouchable right now and knows that they're not going to do anything. And so if you go out and lose by a touchdown or 10 points to Florida, like, I don't know, man. I will say, I think there is somehow less pressure on UF because
We're
people
starting
care more about
this.
Yeah, people care more about the coaching stuff right now, and Florida can get a big. They could lose this game and then get a big announcement on Saturday night, or maybe even before the game, so that everybody's in a good mood, And so I don't know. As far as on the players, I think probably still more pressure on Florida State just because you're on the road and they're so bad on the road. But I also think they just know they're not good on the road, and so maybe they don't even think about that. It's like maybe they just expect to lose, and that doesn't even bother them. But I don't know. I don't even think I don't think there's much pressure on anybody in this game. I don't think anybody, guys want to play well in their last game. Like, that's fine if that's their situation for either team. But I would say the pressure is pretty low here overall, is my take.
Allie and Will, I got a question for y'all because CJ just made this pop into my head. But if you're the UF admin and you do have a coach who's agreed to a contract, do you save that announcement for after the game just in case Florida loses, so the fan base is just like, screw it, we got a new coach, it's fine?
It's a good idea, maybe, but I'm just imagining right now, let's just say it is Lane. I'm imagining that announcement coming out at 10 a.m. or noon, and then he walks out onto the field like in this middle of the second quarter. That place would go bomb. So I almost wonder if that potential positive is worth more than the safety net of, look guys, here he is, even though we just lost by 14 to FSU. So that's probably the way I'd go.
I can't see the national
this year.
I'll let Allie go, but I can't see the national guys sitting on it. Once it happens, they're going to know.
Yeah.
There's no way that Florida could keep them from saying anything.
I don't know that Florida gets to be in control of when. If it's Lane, I'm pretty sure it's the Lane show. So we're on his timeline whenever he wants to announce it. And if it's not Lane, we're still on the Lane timeline, And I Florida's not going to announce anything until Lane has, because they believe that they're still in it for him. And I don't think that anything is finalized with anyone else until Lane has announced it, if it is somebody else. But if I were a betting girl, I would bet that stuff starts to leak in the morning. I can't imagine that Lane Kiffin forgoes a chance to be the topic on game day on Saturday morning. So whether it's Florida or not, I think we're going to start hearing about it from them. I do think that could be a shot in the arm to the team. I don't know how much they care about who their next head coach is. I have to think, out of all of the names in college football, Lane is the person who these players would get the most excited about. But you did say it. Most of them are mercenaries at this point. So maybe they don't care. I don't know. It would sure as hell be a shot in the arm for fans.
Yeah.
Or maybe completely depressing, and everybody comes with bags over their head and fire Scott Strickland posters and DVD.
Yeah, I don't think he would want his. That's the other thing too. Not only will the national guys not do it, Allie's right. Like he's going to want his moment, and competing against. I mean, you think he wants that thing to come out during the Iron Bowl or during Michigan, Ohio State, or during some of these other games. Like, no, it's going to happen in the morning, and that, yeah. So wherever he goes, or if he stays or whatever, I agree there. All right, let's do this real quick. We'll talk a little bit more and get out of here. Try and get out of here before 9 or so. But listen, I only have the one overlay up, just I can't do two at once. But if you're a Gator fan watching this, go to the Sleeper app and use the code PEEK, PEEK. If you're an FSU, you can use our code there on the bottom of the screen, DFNS, to get a 100% match up to $100. We don't have the picks on the screen this week just because I tried to fit 4 people in and it just wasn't working. But the Florida State side of this is not listed yet, so you'll have to go check those later. But we'll go around the horn. DJ Lagway, 196.5 passing yards.
That
More or
line
less.
is so disappointingly low.
It is awful. It's like a Tommy Castellanos type number.
I'm going to say more because that's my hopefulness, that I really hope it's more.
I've been saying more on DJ for weeks, and I keep being wrong. So I'll try. Maybe it's my fault. I'll just say less, and hope he goes for like 270.
Okay, there you go. Maybe it is your fault.
Rat poison. I'm going less. That seems like such an easy more. I have to go less.
I'm going to try and do the opposite. I'm going to go more to try and jinx it the other way. So I got to counteract what Will does.
With each other, yuck.
Yeah, I think more is, that's a low number, man. So yeah, it would surprise me. And I don't, Florida State's defense has played better, but not good enough to, for me to think that they can hold him under if they try and pass the ball. Here's a big number though on the other side. Jaden Ball, 91.5 rushing yards. We'll go the opposite direction. We'll do it opposite. I'll go, man, I kind of want to go less here just because they featured him a little bit as a pass catcher, and I think he's going to get some of his burn that way. So I wish this was total yards, even if the number was higher, but I don't have enough faith in Florida State's defense on the road. So I'll go more here, but he'll end up with 81 rushing yards and 40 yards receiving just to screw me, but I'll go more.
Yeah, I'll say less. But I don't know. Again, there's so many, as Ali said earlier, there's so many inconsistencies with both of these programs. You have no idea. I think the defense, if you want to point to one bright spot, air quotes, it has been the defense and the defensive line and the twins up front. So I'll say less on this one.
I'm saying more. He is 96 yards away from getting to 1,000. If nothing else happened in this game, just get Jaden Ball to 1,000 yards on the year. So I'm going to go more because for my sanity and hopefully the rest of the fans, he has to get there.
Yeah, I'm going with more too. I almost hope Jaden Ball gets to 1,000 more than I care about Florida beating Florida State this weekend. I think that he has been the heart and soul of this team. He deserves it, and I think it would be just such a disservice for him to be 10 yards short of this 1,000-yard mark.
Vernell Brown, 52.5 receiving yards. Allie, you can start us off. We'll go the other way this time.
I'll go more, mainly because there's not a whole lot of options for Florida's receivers, and I think he's the number one guy at the moment.
I'm going to say more also because if you go through his games before he was injured, he was in the 70s and 80s. Like that's how he can produce. And like Alex said, with so many less names, it's got to be more for Vanel.
This has clip potential because I want to say more as well. I think that, being the number one receiver, I took less on Lagway on his yards, but I could see this one being a more. So I'll go that route, TJ.
Yeah, I'll make it 4 for 4. Just again trying to jinx it the other way, but no, I think without having other guys in there, again, I'm not super confident in Florida State's um, pass defense. I think they've run into some really bad quarterback play over the last 4 weeks, and that's how they've been able to hold people down. If Lagway has a good day, even if he doesn't get to the 200-yard mark, that could be like 2.5 catches for Brown. So
Yeah.
I like his speed. I think he goes over or more. Passing touchdowns for Lagway, 1.5. I'll start it. I'll say less here. I'll say he gets one on the ground. If it was total, I'd go more, but I'll say he gets one on the ground. I think they want to try and run the ball. I think this is probably more low scoring based on what offenses have looked like here lately. I'll go less than 1.5. Richie?
I hate to agree with you, but like you said, if this was total touchdowns, I'd probably go more. But since we're talking strictly pass touchdowns, I'm going to go less.
I'll say less too. I think when you get down to the goal line, they'll just give the ball to Jaden Ball, let him take those yards in the winners or tighter. So I'll say less for DJ there.
Yeah, I agree with all three of you. I think less, not because I think Florida scores, such a minuscule amount of points, but I think that it'll be the Jaden Ball show, or Lagway will just take it in himself.
Would it surprise anybody if it was a 13-10 game, though? Like, would anybody be shocked after the last?
No, I think it'll be slightly more scoring than that, but no, it wouldn't shock me.
14.
Old school Big Ten noon kickoffs. I love it with Iowa and Nebraska.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so these are anytime touchdowns. You got to pick two. Well, that'll be tough to do because I'm not going to read the entire list off. But let's just do. Yeah, well, let's do these two. Deuce Robinson and Jaden Ball. I'll take the more on both of them. I say they both score. So you got to you're building a parlay basically.
Okay.
So you pick more or less for either one of them. Deuce and Jaden, I'll say they both get a touchdown at some point on Saturday. Richie,
I'll say yes on both. I hate agreeing with you, TJ, on things, but I think Deuce, because if Florida State's going to score a touchdown, especially if we get into the red zone, like what is the only play we have? We run it 3 times in a row. It's a fade to Deuce, so that one's easy. But I gotta agree with you on both of them. So I'll say yes for both.
I'll say yes for Ball for sure. He's their workhorse on the goal line. I'll say no for Deuce because I don't feel like cheering for an FSU guy to score at all.
Yep. That was exactly my rationale. I'm the same exact as Will. Yes for Ball, no for Deuce because I don't want to cheer for a Florida State player. But I also think Florida's defense will show up a little bit more on Saturday, and I think running the ball might be difficult.
Again, use the code PEAK, P-E-E-K, if you're a UF fan, DFNS if you are cheering for FSU. If you're a neutral, you Miami haters that are watching this, use DFNS as well. Any final questions, thoughts? We can go around the horn. Allie does a segment like what she wants to see. Allie, you don't have to do like all 5 or anything like that, but just final thoughts, final questions if you want to pose something, and then we'll wrap up and get out of here with some predictions.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to see some heart. I would love to see a victory for Billy Gonzalez. I think
that's too easy. We all want to see a win now.
Well, I understand that, but for Billy specifically, he's spent time at UF over the last 25 years with multiple coaching staffs. I think that he is the epitome of somebody who really does care about the logo. And so I want that for him. I want that 1,000 yards rushing for Jaden Baugh. And, honestly, for the fans, I think Florida's fans deserve a win. The fact that this is now, the 18th sellout in a row with the piss poor product that's been put on the field the last several years, I think the fans deserve kind of a round of applause. And this would be a nice way to send them into, the next 9 months of no college football for them. But I need to see some effort. And can we get any consistency out of Lagway? I think that would go a long way as well.
Richie?
I don't know. I just want to see the season come to an end. I think that's where I'm at. But I do want to see us win this game. But yeah, I just want to see a competent offense that can finish. Like we talked about, they've shown that they can sustain drives, but they can't finish them.
Yeah.
So if you do get into the red zone, finish the drive. That's all I want to see. That's it. I think the defense will probably do enough to win the game, but I have no confidence that the offense will do the same. So that's what I want to see.
Will?
If there's anything I'm looking for, it's just to like be hands on my head screaming, "What are you doing?" like less than 7 times. Like just less mind-numbing things that make me wonder why I'm even at the game. So just like some consistency, playing smart, executing well. Just even if you don't pull it off, just give us something positive to look at, right? Just a decent last 60 minutes of the season.
Yeah, I'll go with, I mean, I continue to say it, and it probably won't happen, but it'd be nice to get to halftime and have 14 points. I don't, I know that, I mean, that is ridiculous to have to say, but like they play better in the second half. I think if you go to halftime with a lead, I do think you win the game. Not that it's impossible for Florida State to choke it away, but that's not really been their mantra this year, is choking big leads or anything like that. And I do think it's relatively lower scoring. So if you score 14 in the first half and you can get another 10 or 13 in the second half, I mean, yeah, I think if you get to like 27 or so, you probably do win. Like, I don't know if either offense is really capable of getting to 30 without, some crazy special teams plays or a pick six or something ridiculous like that. So you don't have to start super fast, but if you could just do something competent in the first half to get a couple of scores, then you're probably in pretty good shape through the rest of it. Harlan, we did have one more super chat that I missed from Jeremy. We'll show that real quick, and then we'll predict this thing and take a little nap before we all eat turkey tomorrow. So, Harlan, I don't even know if you can see that. I know it's pretty hard up there, but I can't even read that. Somebody with better eyes.
Says Allie, my 8-year-old daughter / Allie superfan says hi and go Gators. Well, tell her hi and go Gators from me for sure. And happy Thanksgiving.
You FSU fans let the UF fans beat you 12-0 on this tonight. So, all right, let's predict it and get out of here. I think Florida's like a 3-point favorite, 3.5 point favorite, somewhere around there right now. So essentially Florida getting the home field, and both these teams equally as bad in Vegas's eyes outside of that. So, Will, you can start us off.
Yeah, I think that Billy Gonzalez gets a win, right? I'm cheering for it. I think that being at home is a big advantage. So I'll go Florida like 27-21. Nothing crazy on offense. I do think that we get enough scoring where it's on a total drag to watch. So I'll go 27-21 Florida.
Richie?
Last time Florida State went to the Swamp facing an interim head coach after their head coach had been fired, we saw the worst onside kick in college football history. And I know this is near and dear to Allie's heart with the special teams and kickers and whatnot, but I think Florida will be leading 23-21. Florida State drives down the field with a few seconds left, and Jake Weinberg misses wide right. Gators win 23-21.
Allie?
From your lips to God's ears. I actually think Florida puts it together a little bit this this week. I think they win 24-10. And I think maybe the fans are hyped up about some earlier announcements. We'll see.
I want to do the thing where everybody picks the same side, but I'll be a homer one more time this year. I have no confidence in this at all, but 21-17 FSU wins. For no reason at all other than that's just what I'm doing tonight. So I'll just go through this real quick. You can follow, if you're on either channel and you want to see mad tweets during the game, Richie is R_Barnes407. Will is W Thomas Sports, and Allie is _Peak. Appreciate you guys for hanging out tonight. Hopefully let's do this. One thing, you can't say like a fried turkey or something. This is really important. Like your favorite Thanksgiving side.
Oh, green bean casserole. All that.
Okay. Will?
I'm going sweet potato casserole.
Yeah, same here. Will and I are on the same page there. Richie?
I'll say cornbread because it just works so well with the gravy when it soaks in, and because cornbread is kind of dry naturally, but once you get that gravy in it, oh man, it's phenomenal.
You don't eat cornbread all year?
No.
Like I ate
Why would
cornbread
I?
this week with chili.
Why would I?
All right. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you guys, Will, Allie. Thanks for coming on. Richie, Harlan, for your work on the back end. We will talk to everybody soon. I'll give you a Go Knowles to get out of here.
Go Gators.
Go Gators.